Hey everyone, let's talk stories. And in this episode, I'll be talking about Robert Galbraith's Troubled Blood, which is a fifth book in series Strike and Robin series. And if you're someone who are not aware of the series, so basically, J.K. Rowling, after the Harry Potter series, she went on to write seven highly successful crime novels. So the Troubled Blood is fifth in the series, and like all the books in the series, this one too follow Cormoran Strike, the lead character, a veteran soldier who was discharged from the duty when his leg gets blown off in a mission, and who is now a celebrated, private detective in the city of London. And it also follows his detective partner Robin Ellicott, who joins Strike as a temp, but now who climbs up the ladder to become a partner in his detective agency over the course of these four novels, over the course of the four novels that preceded this one. Now, the book starts off in an extremely personal note, exploring the family lives of the protagonists, where on one hand, the Cormoran Strike character was getting, was visiting his dying aunt, who who practically raised Strike and his half sister when while their mother was off doing her shenanigans. Now, while on the other hand, Robin was finalizing the rather uncomfortable details of her divorce proceedings with her husband of 1 year, and who was also her only boyfriend throughout her entire life. So the time in both the characters' lives is rather hard and tumultuous. Now, unlike the other books in the series, we see Strike in his most emotional state, and where we see him sitting next to his aunt, talking about talking about his life, talking about her life, and what how her how she wants her funeral to be. All this rather uncomfortable details, and rather all the details that her aunt loves. What are the details that her aunt loves about Strike, and what Strike feels about her, and all these details, the communication between Strike and her aunt is rather heartwarming to see. And we don't see Strike in his in his in an emotional space, but I think over the course of this books, I think J.K. Rowling is rather tapping more into the emotional state of the lead character. And the as his aunt was also will be slipping away from the family with every passing day. While Strike was in a sabbatical from the active detective duty, Robin is in London managing the detective agency, and also she's also managing her divorce proceedings. Now, like all the books in the series, what happens is while the detective agency is in the midst of investigating some random cases regarding infidelity and stalking, they stumble into a peculiar case, which becomes the central plot of the book. So the peculiar case in this book is when a 40-year-old woman accidentally finds Strike, the Cormoran Strike character, and asks him to track her missing mother, Margot, who was missing for 42 years. The police and the general public thinks that Margot was murdered by Dennis Creed, a serial killer who created rampage in that area around the same time. Now, Margot was a nurse before she was kidnapped, and this becomes a central case of investigation in this book. Now, I think I think that's a story point, and everything and anything else that moves forward is a spoiler. Now, I'll talk about how what reading this book feels like. So, when I was reading it felt like a giant thousand-piece puzzle, which the author is trying to solve with a great difficulty, because you see certain characters have, like, you can sense a character have two motives, but once one one noble motive is what is being portrayed in the writing, but we as an audience and the strike character as a detective knows that okay, there is something fishy going on with the character. Now coming to the characters which are I mean there are like 30 40 30 40 odd characters where where we find it hard to keep track of all these characters. At the center of it is Margot, a nurse, and who was missing in late 1970s, and another central character is her daughter who is in who persuades Strike to take the case of finding her missing mother. Now, all this so as I mentioned, there are plethora of characters that are roaming throughout the book, and we see most of the book is about Strike and Robin talking to these characters and understanding their motives and understanding where they were, and proof checking their alibis and all this. But at the core of it is, so it's not different from any of the Cormoran Strike books, and it's all about there is no action that is happening. It's all about the conversational pieces that is happening, and it's all about uh, these detective pairs stumbling from one clue onto the other and stitching the case together. Now, as I mentioned, reading this book specifically, it's an extremely long book. It's around 1,000 pages, and it's excruciatingly hard for you to follow the characters, follow the plot lines, because they're not like 10 20 characters. They're like 40 50 40 or 50 characters, and these 40 50 odd characters have different motives, different personalities, different background settings, right? And it's hard at sometimes it's hard to follow these characters, and it's hard to keep on reading this book, because at one point you feel that okay, in the end, whatever the end that we are whatever the end revelation that we are going to get, it's not worth the 100 pages that we are reading. But by the end of it, I think it's true, it's not worth it at all. Now when you see the ending, when you realize the end, what the ending is going to be, you feel like this is the ending is not at all worth the time that we have put in. And I think the motive of the killer is not established properly, and though the revelation of the killer is good, I mean, but the motive doesn't make sense. Now, the, throughout the book is all about, it's slightly different from the other four Cormoran Strikes books in a way that in this book it's all about eliminating suspects. Like as I mentioned it, there are 10 to 15 suspects that are sprinkled throughout the narrative, and the job of Strike and Robin is to eliminate one suspect after the other, after they become convinced of their alibis. Now this becomes tedious at times, mainly because you see the same character is being interviewed or being talked to by this detective pair, or like multiple times, and cross checking their alibi or multiple iterations. So I mean, that sounds, the description and the proceedings sounds realistic, but as a reader, we don't get the high, we don't get the detective high while reading the book. That's a major that's a major drawback on this. And I would say that probably this book might have been better if it had been cut short by probably 300 400 odd pages. Like probably it would have been good if it had been cut down to probably a 500-page novel. But other than that, I think the length is a major issue in this. And I think I would recommend it probably for those for the readers who just got sucked into this Strike Robin series, because every time I finish one of these Strike Robin books, I say to myself that I'm not going to read the next one, but I end up reading it. No, they're not good. The I thought that I think the good thing about these books is the setup. setup is really good, and when the setup leads to the conclusion, that's where the narrative dwindles down into a pile of ash. Now, but if the conclusion would have been as good as the setup, the series would have would have shown like a would have shown like a diamond. I mean, there are some narrative pieces that are really good, and there and I mean, coming back to my coming back to my description on this book, like it's as I've said, it's like it sounds like a giant, a thousand piece puzzle that you have just dug out from under the ground, and you sat down to solve it. You don't know, like, if you have all the pieces, and you don't know if all the pieces fit. That's exactly how this novel feels like, and it's exactly how I mean, it's a hard thing for a writer to come up with their idea like this, where a detective going trying to solve a case of 40 years. But there are some points where you see that some of the pieces of the puzzle just fall from the sky and just fit into the exact place in the puzzle, in the puzzle. So that some things like that, where the strike character, while just having a sip of coffee, he observes a young boy walk the road once or twice, and he sees that, okay, he sounds interesting, let's follow him. And he follows him, and that leads him to a clue. And there are a couple of things like that which are not so convincing, but I think I mean, we can give that I mean, we can't just hook on to these small things, because there are so many realistic aspects in the book that you can't ignore. And the other aspect that is slightly irritating is uh, the constant resurfacal of the astrology and some astrological signs and astrological signs, and their connection to the case, and their connection to the people involved in the case. I mean, at some, you could have just touched it and left it, and then went ahead with the narrative. But J.K. Rowling doesn't do that. She instead tries to interweave these astrological signs and into this science of uh, the effect of people believing in this astrological signs, and their decisions based on astrological signs. You try to see so much of them keep getting resurfaced over the course of the book, and that slightly becomes irritating, and that actually consumes so much of the book, which could have been used, which could have been cut down, and which could have been used for a different narrative piece. Now, that being said, I think the ending is not worth it, and probably I don't think I would recommend this uh, to probably anyone who is not familiar with the series. And the only thing that the reading of this book makes it worth is the last paragraph of this book, where we get a sort of a conclusion to a will they or won't they situation between Cormoran and Robin, where uh, we see uh, we see uh, we see a gentle kiss planted by one character onto the other, and a smile, a reflection, and a gentle smile, a twinkle of smile in the faces of each other. I think I think that makes it worth it, because I've been following them for 4 books or 5 books now, and I would want to see the conclusion to their relation, to their I mean, not even the conclusion, the beginning of their relationship. Probably the next book might have something to look forward to, but I think it will be some time before I go ahead and start reading one of these books. So yeah, I think that's it for now. And if you are someone, the conclusion is that if you are someone who likes to read procedural dramas, who likes to have the patience to sit through these elaborate conversations, discussions, uh, deductions, probably this book is for you. If not, I think it's I think I don't think it's worth your time. I think That's it for this episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.